Hello and welcome back to the Scoop with Coop. I'm of course Coop, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, where the Detroit Pistons at home took on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And just before we jump into that, I don't love doing this, but it would mean the world to me if all the viewers here could subscribe, as only 4% of my viewers are subscribed. It would mean the world to me if you did. Be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's just jump right into the game. And in this game, Cleveland walked away with the W in overtime in Detroit. And looking at the course of this game, right, we'll start off with Cleveland here. Dean Wade took 0 shots, but he rebounded the ball well and was an overall positive. I don't mind him playing. He also just provides a threat of being a shooter, and that opens up for the entire Cavaliers team. And this game was really where we saw the benefit of having the two big lineup for Cleveland, where he had Jared Allen, and he had a plus 14, plus minus. He also had 6 offensive rebounds, and let's face it, if you can have a player who's capable of getting even 3 offensive rebounds, that goes a long way in walking away with a victorious win. Evan Mobley, I mean, I'm happy with how he played, right? 19 points, 8 rebounds, that's the usual for him. But 8 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. He was great defensively. I loved what he was contributing defensively. I think he locked down the paint very well, and he kind of forced Cade Cunningham into a lot more difficult shots. I'm going to say only. He shot only under 50%, which, if you can sort of neutralize the rest of the team and hold them to only shooting 44% from the field, that'll be a big positive. That'll be a massive positive for your team on the defensive end, and it ended up being the defensive end that really won the Cavaliers this game. And one of the people who was sort of big in this game was James Harden, as he had 30 points. I don't think he played spectacular because his efficiency wasn't great. He missed three straight crucial free throws that would have made this an even more comfortable win. Now, I know that it's kind of nitpicking, but if you're going to miss 3 straight free throws in a game that you only won by 4, you could have put it out of hand even more if you simply made your shots. But it didn't come back to bite the Cavaliers here, and maybe it will later. But I also don't love the 6 turnovers. I also don't love the 4 turnovers from Evan Mobley. This team just turns the ball over a ton. But what are you going to do? I guess not turn the ball over as much. Donovan Mitchell, he had 21. He really started to come alive into the fourth quarter. He hit his first and only three-pointer in that big shot. And then on the other end, I believe he got a steal and then put it up for a layup. So he had 5 points in about 5 seconds for this Cavaliers team that allowed them to have a comeback where they were down 9 points with, I believe, 2 minutes left to go in the fourth. Yeah, I think that's how it was. But Cleveland, they came back and they really snatched the victory from the jaws of defeat. Another player off the bench, Max Strus. He has been really good for Cleveland in the playoffs just since being on this team. Last series, 10 points. This series, 11 points. He's been absolutely crucial in playoff games. Last year's 12. Last year 12 and 11 the year before. So he's consistently been a good rotational player, and he'll have a couple of games where he'll drop 20. This was one of them, where he had 20 points and 8 rebounds. Game 1 of this series, he had 19. So I guess we technically haven't seen all of the 20-point games because it usually gives you 2. But I think he has been really good off the bench, and he's been a overall positive player for this Cavaliers team, and he's really allowed them to come back and win the last 3 games. And the rest of these players off the bench, like Dennis Schroeder and Sam Merrill, you're cool. That's about it. For Detroit, there needs to be a serious conversation had about Jalen Duren. He's getting himself into, can you even, pay him a vet minimum? Because if you're playing someone 25 minutes and they're in negative 16 and your spot got stolen by Paul Reed, Isaiah Stewart. Like, I don't know what the Pistons are going to do with him because he is. I don't want to bring this like aspect up, but he mentally does not look like the same. Where he's just not even attempting shots. I mean, he shot five shots in the regular season. He was probably shooting. Let me look here. 12. He is, I guess, technically half as good as he was in the regular season, and you're not going to win games if someone who is supposed to be your second option and your second best player is doing this. Just not good enough. Tobias Harris, he didn't play that great. This also isn't a great matchup for him, especially since his center decided to become a pumpkin. He hasn't played as well this series in particular as he did in the previous one. I think he was better in the previous one than this one. But I do think that Tobias Harris, all things considered, has played well when you think about he was a third option who was asked to step up as a second option while going up against a team that could theoretically match up very well against them. And I think he's played well as a result of it. Right? You have Cade Cunningham. This one of his worst games, just in terms of, I mean, he had 6 turnovers here. He is turning the ball over a ton relative to assists. And at a couple points, it looked like he was just taking shots just for the sake of taking them. And I think that I was a little bit harsh on Cade when I say it was one of his worst games. I mean, he put up 39, 7, and 9, but it just looked like for a couple sequences where he wasn't as involved. And when he was involved, he wasn't making the right decision. So that's what I mean by not his best game. Obviously, he's still a phenomenal player and still played phenomenally in this game. I mean, I just think that this team isn't good enough to win against Cleveland, and Cleveland has done everything possible to lose this series, I think. But for Detroit, I mean, you can't have someone who is alone. And there's no one on this team who I feel comfortable about dribbling the ball outside of Cade Cunningham being a reliable shooter outside of Cade Cunningham, because in this game, shot 33% from the three-point line. Cade shot 60. So if you take him out of that equation, they would have shot 5 for 23. Not good one bit. This Detroit team can't shoot the ball. They don't have a great playmakers to bounce off of Cade's ability. They also don't have, any like playmaking chops outside of Cade. I do think that if there is someone who could elevate to that, that would be Asar Thompson. He is an absolute just defensive menace, where averaging 2 steals and a block. Unfortunately, though, you got to be able to put the ball in the hoop, and that's one of his big weaknesses, only having 6 points here, 2 for 6 from the field. I just think that you can't have this many non-scorers out there. Dennis Jenkins, he played well in this, 2 for 8 from 3, which he was one of the better ones, which is crazy to say. 8 for 17. I mean, Dennis, he's a good backup point guard, but I don't think is a starting caliber guard in this league. That's not a knock on him. I think that he could definitely play for a long time. I just don't think that he is good enough to be a player playing 41 minutes in a playoff basketball setting. Moving on to the bench for this Detroit team, Paul Reed, I think he played very well. At least he played much better than Jalen Duren. 10 points, 8 rebounds, an assist, 2 blocks. I think he played well, especially off the bench, and he was their closer out there, and I think he played very, very well. And we're going to get into the closing parts of this game shortly, don't worry. And then next up, Isaiah Stewart, right? 11 minutes, 8 points. Good player. Just, you can't. The problem is if your backup bigs are having to close the lineup and they're having to be a pseudo starter, that's problematic. Karis LeVert, he didn't play fantastic for them, but I will say on one of them, he did have 3 free throws. Should have had 5 because it looks like he was fouled on towards the end of the fourth quarter because he was going up for a mid range and it was Evan Mobley on him, I believe. I'm going to put the clip um, on screen. It does look to be a foul, or at least there was a lot of speculation that it could be. Very physical play there. And then going towards the end, you have Asar Thompson getting tangled up with, I believe it was Jarrett Allen. And that one also looked to be a foul. And if either one of those were called fouls, Detroit would have had 2 free throws at the end of the fourth quarter, which if they make one out of those possible 4 free throws, they win the game. And I think that this, is it a foul? Yes. Do I agree with the decision to not call it? I mean, it's a tough one where I think that one of them should have been called, but I also think this is playoff basketball, and one of those plays just wasn't physical enough to meet the requirement. And also, when you look at how other series are shaping up in terms of the physicality, I mean, I don't think you call that one as much. I do think that there is a very reasonable argument for it to have been called, and I do understand Detroit's protest for it to have been called. Um, I mean, I think closing this game, Detroit just ran out of gas and they went up for a couple of just poor shots because I want to go through the sequence to end this game because in the 5 minute overtime period, right, Jarrett Allen, right, nice little 2-man game, gets the miss, puts it back up. That's where the big comes into play, not having a good big man here. Detroit, Cade Cunningham misses a floater. Paul Reed gets the rebound, misses the tip. Although very physical play there by Evan Mobley. Then Donovan Mitchell just drives off of a fast break, able to get the shot up. Tobias Harris miss, Evan Mobley rebound. James Harden took just a bad shot. He was trying to draw a foul there, and I mean, I agree with the decision to not call it a foul. James Harden stuck his leg out trying to draw a foul, and this is playoff basketball. And the reason that he hasn't had any success is because when push comes to shove, he will try to do antics like that instead of actually trying to take a better shot. Because instead of passing it to a shooter in the wing or trying to drive whenever you have a bigger man matched up on you, you just go to try to take a step back three while covered and just stick your legs out to try to draw a foul instead of taking a better shot. I disagree with all of that process. I do agree with it being a foul. Then you have Jarrett Allen. He commits a foul. Paul Reed makes both of his free throws. Donovan Mitchell makes a big three-pointer there to separate it. And then on the steal, Donovan Mitchell gets the layup. Paul Reed able to take advantage of some size. He gets down low, makes a little layup. Evan Mobley misses, rebound Paul Reed. And if you've noticed, I haven't said one person's name. Jalen Duren. Haven't said his name at all. I don't believe he played a single minute. He didn't. He didn't play a single minute of an overtime in a Game 5 where the team that wins Game 5 when it's tied 2-2 wins the series, I think, 85% of the time. So if you can't play someone who wants to be asking for, how much is he asking for? I'm pretty sure it's like a massive amount of money. Like, I think it was like 200 million. Okay, no, so it is a 5-year 185. And if he receives an All-NBA nod, could be eligible for that. But it's ridiculous that someone who can't get any burn in an overtime period for the playoffs is asking for that much money and to be worth a third of the team's salary cap. I mean, Paul Reed especially, regardless, I think you kind of have to play him more because, I mean, in 17 minutes, he was a good player. Isaiah Stewart, plus 12 in the 11 minutes he played. The player who had the worst plus-minus on the team was Jalen Duren. Like, I don't like beating up a dead horse, but Jalen Duren legitimately deserves it because he hasn't, shown any willingness to get himself out of this slump. Looking into this game, I think Cleveland's going to end up winning this series. I think they might win it next game because in Cleveland, that's going to be a tough matchup. Um, I also think that with this team showing that they can handle more physicality and they can dish it out better than you. I feel like this could be a big Jared Allen game if he so chooses so. Because it seems like whenever it's time to rise to the task, oh my goodness, Jarrett Allen does that, right? In game 7 of the first round series, 22-19 with 3 blocks and 2 steals. So it's clear that Jared Allen can elevate to those high pressure, high moments, and I would expect for him to do that. I can't say that I have faith in Evan Mobley because he's burned me so many times where I'm like, maybe this is the year, maybe this is the leap. But I do think that if someone is going to step up, I could see him doing that on the defensive end. I also think Donovan Mitchell, he needs to play better because him and James Harden too, because you can't shoot 15 for 40 in a playoff game between your two best players. Now, sure, you got 51 points. I don't think you're going to end up getting 20 free throws between the two of them again. And also looking at the free throws, 38-20. That difference between Cleveland and Detroit is just gargantuan. You can't expect that to happen. You also can't expect 40% from three. So I do think there are a lot of things that aren't translatable to next game. But I do think that this has to be so demoralizing for Detroit that I could very well see Cleveland taking advantage of a beat up team and walking away and, well, I guess walking home with the win as they are in Cleveland. I could very well see Cleveland taking the win. And it's just unfortunate for Detroit that someone who was supposed to be a big part of this playoff run and someone who was a big part of their regular season as well as a big part of their future, just decided to have one of the worst fall offs I've seen from a possible All NBA player that I've seen, where he's borderline unplayable. Like, this is DeAndre Ayton level of just unplayable and not being able to be on the court, and that your team is just better when you're not around. Um, but I do think Cleveland, give me Cleveland in 6. Detroit, you had a good year. If this is the end of your season, which it would be fantastic, it would be great, right? I would love to see this series go to a game 7. I feel like it would be absolutely must watch television. It would be must see TV. In the words of Charles Barkley, I'm going to give you 2 words: Steve Nash and Chris Paul, must see TV. Which, if you know, you know. But that is all at the Scoop of Coop. Until next time, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe if you like any of the content. I'm trying to get back into the flow of uploading more regularly.